Hello everybody and welcome back to Odin's movie blog. I am the critic who is a cynic. Hope you're doing well. And today as I wait for a hard drive to come in because I'm working on a basically budget NAS server. For anyone that knows what that is, you might be excited for that, but basically it's a way for me to back up a lot of my movies onto a server that is accessible at any time, and then I can access that server via Plex. So I'm very excited because I've been wanting to digitize my library anyway, especially during these times with CV affecting everything and us likely being home. Again, my school has not made any decisions on that as of yet, but there's a good chance that we probably will get closed down for at least a week or two, because that's what almost all schools almost across the country are doing at this point to try and, to mitigate any further spread of CV. What we do find ourselves in a situation is that streaming, of course, is the name of the game. And so being able to have access to all that stuff at any time will definitely be beneficial. What is interesting, though, is we do have some box office news for this upcoming weekend. And the biggest surprise, I think, for a lot of people is how much Onward has now been impacted by CV and also by just normal second weekend drop-off. So right now, Friday's box office for Onward showed a 73% drop. 73%. That is insane. Onward was expected to come in at number one this weekend, and it very well might still do that. However, it is seeing some decent competition from the other movies that have been released. And this also makes a lot of sense because when you think about it, there's a lot of kids that are obviously out of school now and across the country, and yet they're going to be staying home. They're not going to be going out. They're not going to be brought out by their parents because the parents want to make sure that the kids are isolating in some aspect, right? That's what we've been told to do, try to isolate as much as we possibly can, which means a lot of people probably are not going to be going to the theaters. Now, does that mean that everyone's going to listen to that? Probably not, but it makes a lot of sense to me that families, especially, which is the target demographic of Onward, would not be going out to see this movie already, because first weekend it came out to a very lackluster opening weekend. A lot of that, I think, had to do with, at least, as far as overseas goes. But I do think at the same time that the movie just was not expected and was not likely going to make that much anyway, because it's an off-kilter story. It is coming out during a time, during the month of March, which is kind of a weird time for movies. Sometimes there's movies that can do very well, like last year. Other times there can be films that don't do nearly as well. It's not a summer blockbuster, for example, or a December release where just movies are almost guaranteed to make a lot of money. So this film is basically set to lose a crap ton of money because of everything going on with CV right now. But 73% drop off. And as Scott Mendelson points out, Invisible Man has weathered the storm, and the reason why is because this is, of course, geared towards older audiences who are not as likely to stay home as parents with children. So let's go ahead and look at the box office numbers. So as you can see, Friday's numbers coming in, I Still Believe, came in at $4 million, another faith-based film from Lionsgate. Bloodshot, the new Vin Diesel action film, came at $3.775 million, while Disney's Onward came at $3.2 million, which is a 73% drop from last weekend. That's only $748 per theater at over 4,310 theaters. So basically, if that percentage drop-off consists and persists going forward, we're likely going to see probably between a 60, I would say probably at least a 50%, but upwards 65% drop off for the entire weekend, because we don't have these Saturday AM showings yet, because as we all know, for kids movies especially, those Saturday AM showings are always very, very good for those movies, overall going forward. So it makes a lot of sense that that film is doing as well, or rather is not doing as well on Friday evening showings, because their parents are not wanting to take their kids out anyway right now. And then the new movie, The Hunt, very controversial new film, came at $2.2 million. So it'll be interesting to follow the numbers on that. I have not looked up the budget for that film yet. I'll do a full box office breakdown on Geeks and Gamers tomorrow. And of course, I'll do a further breakdown on my channel on, with the days ahead, breaking down how much the movie is likely going to lose, especially after we get next weekend's numbers. But as you can see, a lot of films are now being impacted by everything going on with this, and Onward at this point in time, with everything going on, has now made $81.2 million, which is very, very sad. In fact, according to Scotty Boy Mendelson, this could be the worst drop-off in history for a Pixar film. The worst week 1 to week 2 drop-off for a Pixar film overall. Actually, I think that's, let me try and see here. Disney Pixar Onward is still poised to lead the weekend, though at a much lower level than was saw yesterday afternoon, with 3.3 million second Friday, 73% for a 12.5 second weekend, down a huge 68%. So right now, Deadline is projecting it'll be a 68% when everything is said and done, because of those Saturday AM showings likely adding to the number. Likely the biggest drop for a Pixar movie ever, though again, that's due to market conditions. 10-day running gross would arrive at $62.2 million in the domestic marketplace. And if this indeed happens, it's going to be fascinating because basically Onward is going to be the highest budget film to come out at the worst time possible. It's a kids movie. It's a high budget film that costs roughly $200 million. Again, we're still waiting to find out an official number. We have yet to get an official number on what this film actually cost to make. I'm wondering why Disney is kind of holding that close to the chest. But basically, it's kind of showing us, hey, yeah, very clearly, people are not wanting to bring their kids out during all this time of crisis and everything that's going on in the world. And so therefore, they're going to be the ones that are going to pay the price. Now, the fact that it came in at number 3 on Friday makes me wonder, especially with I Still Believe, those Sunday numbers for this movie should probably be pretty big, I would imagine. It'll be interesting to see if Onward is indeed able to hold its number 1 spot. Of course, they expect it. And the reason why Deadline said it's expected to come in at number 1 still is because they're expecting the Saturday AM showings to be incredible for this. However, I would say if you're already down 73%, I don't think it's going to be enough, but we'll have to wait and see what these numbers are by the end of the weekend. But Onward, set to be a major loss, and assuming that it costs around $200 million, which is what a lot of these animated Pixar films tend to cost. Again, that's where you look to the history. It's usually between $150 and $200 million for the production budget. If we assume that number going towards the high end of $200 million, this film in all likelihood will end up losing probably over $150 million for Disney. Now, Disney is trying to curtail some of their losses in certain ways. For example, they just recently announced that they're going to be releasing Frozen 2 on Disney Plus on digital about 3 months earlier than was expected. So they're already kind of curtailing that by doing something that not exactly what I've predicted might be pushed forward by studios, which is have movies directly released on their streaming service. But again, going ahead, cutting through everything else, cutting through the months and months of development and saying, all right, we're just going to release it directly on a Disney Plus on tomorrow, on Sunday. And I think that you might see other studios start to do something very similar with any streaming service that they might be a part of as well. Do not be surprised. Since Onward is losing a lot of money at this point in time, I think it would be smarter for Disney to potentially cut their losses at the theater. Again, oftentimes they have about 2-week contracts with the theaters to have it in all of those screens before they start getting pulled out. I would say it would be smarter for them to say, hey, everyone, while you're in this time of crisis, if you have kids and you're staying at home, go watch Onward right now, right? And then you could have an influx possibly of one, having it be where you have an influx of Disney Plus subscriptions, or you try doing something like I recommended before, which is what I think the future of the industry is going to be anyway, and say, if you have Disney Plus and you want to have access to Onward from the safety of your home, you can pay start off very cheap, saying $5 will give you a 48-hour pass, right? So basically turn Disney Plus into a video on demand service as well, where you can access premium content in addition to that. That would be a way for them to make some of their money back. Again, that would be all 100% profits going directly towards them. They would not have to be splitting that with any theaters. And also, of course, it would be much harder for us to be able to track. And so they could potentially argue saying, oh, you're hearing that we lost hundreds of millions of dollars on this movie, but we made a crap ton of money and they can give us a number, right? That's one way that they could possibly hide it. So do expect more studios to do something like that. I would imagine Disney having, of course, the robust Disney Plus service, doing something similar with other releases that they've had. To potentially try and curtail some of these box office losses. But we've already seen a lot of films have been pushed back. Again, Bloodshot did not get pushed back, but Bloodshot also cost, I think, around $40 million or so to actually make last time I checked. I'll go ahead and pull that up right now. The actual production budget, $45 million is how much that costs. So it really doesn't have to make that much money in order to break even at the box office. But the question is it going to be able to make that much? Because it's geared towards older audiences, it's not going to be as affected as kids' movies are going to be affected by, I imagine. So we'll have to wait and see if that indeed does happen. But it'll be interesting to follow nonetheless. Again, CV is having a major impact on the worldwide economy, on the worldwide box office economy especially. And Onward, to me, I think is going to be the biggest movie affected by it as far as comparing the production budget to how much money it's actually going to make. If this movie only ends up making $100 million by the end of this weekend, it's not going to look very good for this film. The prospects for this movie are not going to look very good. This is not a movie that I think could have a second wind after all the stuff with CV dies down. Again, it's not like a well-known name like Mulan, for example. If Mulan had been released during this, they could have said, okay, we're going to keep Mulan out in theaters longer than usual to give access to people that were not able to see it, or do a re-release of the film for those who are not able to see it. during the height of infections, for example. So yeah, it's gonna be fascinating to watch. And Disney, of course, is a major loser in all of this because Onward is not making any money already. Add on top of that everything going on with CV, and it probably won't make that much either. But anyway, let me know thoughts about this. Do you think that Onward is going to be a major financial loss for Disney? I think at this point it's almost a guarantee. And also, what do you think of the movies that have come out so far this weekend? Do you think The Hunt is good? Have you seen it? Have you seen I Still Believe? Have you seen Bloodshot? Is Bloodshot any good? I've heard a lot of mixed things about that. Critics obviously are not going to be fans of it, but overall audiences seem to be more positive about it going forward anyway. And also, what are your thoughts on The Hunt? It seems to be a very divisive film. Apparently, it goes after all sides, but really, when you do that, you don't leave anyone happy leaving the theater, except for the people in the theater who are like, yes, let everything burn. But let me know your thoughts about that and all things talked about in the comments section below. If you like this video, smash the like button, give me a subscribe, it helps me a lot. You're all amazing and beautiful people. Have a wonderful day, and as always, God bless. And now to give a special shout out to my March Patreon and Subscribe Star members: animation commentator Brian P., Dion, David Brobrizik, Divex, Elizabeth M., Enrique Evangelista, Father Christopher Miller, Hail Father, Frank the Tank and the Shawhan Wiener Dog Clan, Harold Francis, the Honker Chonker Funky Monkey, Inflame Wood, Trap Productions, Jason Clark, Jeffrey Toon, JJ Jonathan Jerembeck, Kenneth Camiel, Lady T, Mad Mitch Dunaway, Mr. Peabody and his evil twin with the beautiful hair, Orange Hat Reviews, Outpost Dyer, Perpetual Punster, Riff Magos, Riff Racer Request, Rosetta Allen, Sir Lancelotto, Steve Glasker, Teresa Martin, Theodore Bendon, The DJD Show, and Tina B for Patreon, and my Subscribe Star peeps, Robert Revo, Larry, Mr. Roy, Glinzer, G2 Cool 99, Dark Star 57, Alex McCarthy, US 888209 Fast, Dean Heiss, Harold Francis, J-Rod the Beer Guru, Nebadan G. Adams, and ZK Man, and Mike Jackson. Thank you all so much for being my Patreon and Subscribe Star members for the month of March. You are all amazing people. Thank you so much for the support, and I hope that you are enjoying your perks. If you do not know the perks that you get, make sure you read again through all the perks that are listed, and also check your messages if you're over on Patreon, because if you are a $5 and up backer on Patreon, you get special access to giveaways over on the Discord. I send out messages with a link to join the Discord server. I will then hook you up over there, and you'll have access to some really cool giveaways. I give away 4Ks, Blu-rays, digital codes, try and give away at least a couple of big movies, 4K Blu-ray titles a month, and try to do at least 2 to 3 giveaways for when it comes to digital download codes. And I might try and do a little bit more this month as well, because I'm always trying to add extra stuff to it. And also, if you are a $10 or up backer, then you have access to a special podcast that I'm starting to do with John the Flick Pick. That's right, John Flickinger of the Flick Pick channel. We're having a lot of fun with the podcast, and so expect that every couple of weeks. And of course, also any extra behind the scenes, extra footage, extra interviews, extra solo podcasts as well, you will also have access to. And my special $25 and up backers on Patreon Subscribe Star, you have access to all of those things that I've listed. You also get a t-shirt. That's right, I will send you a t-shirt for your first month. And of course, you can also be featured on the Chosen to Valhalla live stream once a month. You get to be featured on the Odin's Movie Blog channel. It's always usually on a Sunday around 12 p.m. Eastern time. You get to join some lovely peeps and have some really great discussion with all of the Chosen of Valhalla and me with the live audience. Anyway, you guys are all amazing and beautiful people. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day. And as always, God bless.